What does it actually take to get what you want out of life as an ambitious person? To hit your goals, to make more money, and to actually get what you want out of life. Now, I haven't figured it all out, but I have figured out a way to make a consistent 20 to 30,000 a month consistently, as I have for the last 2 years. My highest month being over 70,000 take home. And I figured out how to do that completely remotely with 100% control over my time and living in a beautiful 5-bedroom apartment. And I'm not sharing that to brag, but because along the way, I learned something unexpected. Even when you get what you want, it won't always feel the way you think it will. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. But more importantly, I'll break down the things that actually made this possible so you can start moving towards the freedom and success that you're after. Now, the first thing you have to be comfortable with is uncertainty. This is something I see time and time again from so many sales professionals is I want to get off the cycle. I want to get off the hamster wheel. I don't know what's going to come next. I'm thinking week to week or month to month as opposed to quarter or year to year. And I will say that the more that I've progressed my career and the more that I've grown, the more I've realized that it doesn't matter how much resources you attain, you will still deal with the same amount, if not more uncertainty at higher levels than you do at smaller ones. You just have a better ability to deal with it. And what I mean by deal with it is that if you have, more than 1 year's expenses cash saved up in the bank, you can take risks. However, your ability and comfort to take those risks, I don't believe gets much easier when you have a lot of cash, simply because you become fearful of other things, such as wasting your time. Especially if you found something that works, like a business or a model that's making you some money, it becomes harder to want to innovate or explore to do bigger things because you really want to cling and stick on to what works. And so that's something that I've observed. The sticking to what works hasn't really been something that's plagued me, but I do know plenty of other people that I've worked with or colleagues of mine that find that. It's like getting a job and getting on decent hourly pay and then starting to build a life around that salary. The moment that you've built a life that salary supports is the moment that you can't break free of it because you're now dependent on it. You have these things that you must be responsible for or continue to pay. The key is not to eliminate uncertainty, but to get better at handling it. And that brings me to the second piece of the puzzle, knowing how to take risks strategically so you can actually move yourself forward. Most people think success comes from following a set path, when in reality, it comes from a calculated trial and error, something that I like to call controlled exploration. Controlled exploration meaning that you are going to have to explore new skills, new strategies, and invest in new ventures. And those are things that are gonna cost time and money that you most likely won't want to spend or feel uncomfortable spending because it's exploration. It's like way back when they were trying to conquer new lands, they would prepare all these resources onto a boat and then send it off to the sea to go find new land. And some of those voyages were set to go to that land and get resources and come back. And some of those voyages were just to find the land, come back, and then go with boats that had resources or things to forage and harvest. And you'll have to do that yourself within your career, is knowing how to navigate and control and explore new things, new ideas. I've done that with different offers. I've done this with different ads. I've done this with different elements of my product, different strategies for fulfillment, different types of leadership, different strategies for speaking on video, different ways of editing. And it's something that you'll have to do. And you can't use the same trick over and over and over again. You have to have a foundation of what works, but you must, once more, embrace uncertainty and explore into new things that aren't going to be comfortable. I've lost money on ads testing to find the winning ad that does. But some people cannot wrap their head around, and I've seen this time and time again, they can't wrap their head around the idea of spending any time or putting time or effort or energy towards things that don't work. And that is one of the biggest things that I've learned has really supported, helped me to get to where I want to be. But to do that effectively, you need to understand who you are and how you operate. Are you a positively set person? Are you a negatively set person? Are you an optimist? Are you a pessimist? Are you high energy? Ray Dalio had a very good quote, which is when you have a character flaw or something in you that you would like to change, you can either put work towards changing it or figure out how to work around it. For those of you guys who might not know, I give a certain image, but overall, I'm a somewhat pessimistic, a little bit negatively set person in my temperament, where I'm a bit more of a skeptic and not super optimistic. Now, I have plenty of moments of optimism and enthusiasm and excitement, but overall, I don't really just sit in silence with a smile on my face. I don't sit there and look at things that make me happy. I'm not necessarily someone who just inherently gives a lot of happiness or radiates a lot of love. Meanwhile, I have a cat that is the epitome of that, and I think that's why I'm so attracted to him. And the reason why this is important is because the people around you need to counterbalance your temperament of who you are. You have to work with people that are going to be very happy and enthusiastic if you're not that, because that counterbalance and energy really helps you get the most out of yourself. If you bring in people that are a lot like you get more of the same, and you need to be comfortable embracing just the difference and kind of how people are. Building on that, what's also equally important to know is that you cannot change the temperament of people. You can influence it and help people become more aware, and they can make conscious steps to not be a certain way or avoid doing things that you might not like, but you can't take the temperament out of a person. Like, an example I use is if you go to an animal shelter and you're adopting a cat like I did for mine, you can open up the crates and you can touch the cats and see them. But how that cat is when you open and touch the crate is most likely how that cat will be the entirety of your time with it. And so it's important that when you're picking team members or anybody in your life that you understand what their temperament is and find things that really complement you. But even figuring out your temperament doesn't mean much when you're running on fumes. And that's why the fourth thing, as cliche as this might be, is taking care of your health. But it's crucial because if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll have to make time for your illness. That doesn't mean you have to follow the perfect routine, but you have to figure out what works best for you. That includes finding different diets that support your lifestyle and energy, or taking necessary supplements, and getting enough quality sleep. And to give you an example, I'll share what works for me. I usually have a very high protein, low carb diet, meaning eggs, steak, protein powder, occasionally some fruits. I do take a lot of supplements like omega-3, vitamin D, and just basic electrolytes, things to keep my brain and body nourished, like maca, tongat ali, tribulus, and selenium. I really load up on those. I feel that these help with my cognition and overall well-being. And I time my meals carefully because if I eat too much early in the day, it puts me to sleep, creates a huge drag. It's usually not to the mid to late evening that I decide to eat anything. And sleep is probably the most important of all of the things on this, because if I'm off my sleep schedule by just one day, my productivity the next day is completely in the tank. So I try to go to bed religiously around 11:30 midnight, and I wake up anywhere between 6:30 and 7 a.m. with an alarm clock, but if I'm consistent enough, I feel that my body brings me back to consciousness without even needing one. And when you're trying to build something great, you really need that full focus, energy, and commitment. And poor sleep will just erode your ability to perform over time. Now, I'm not perfect. I don't always eat super clean, and I definitely don't always go to bed on time. But I don't let those slip-ups derail me. I've actually gotten more comfortable over time accepting that there will just be days that I'm not 100% on point. And that forgiveness allows me to enter that day with enough peace of mind that I can feel comfortable pushing towards my goals regardless and not using that as an anchor as to why I can't. And that's how I've been able to sustain $20,000 to $30,000 months. But the key is to make your health a priority without getting fixated or stuck in an all or nothing mindset like a lot of the gurus are telling you to have. However, taking care of your health doesn't always have to do with what you're eating and how you're sleeping, but it has to do a lot with your environment too, because it's actually the things around you that will eliminate your focus and cause a lot of drain. Most people think distractions are just notifications or things on social media. And for that same reason, you must protect your time and mental energy by watching who you get advice from. Most likely you've heard this before, and what I would say is different around my perspective on it is stay away from other people. You don't need to block them, but avoid getting too involved in other people's projects or ideas because, and then I'm talking about friends and people in your social circle, because there's always a second order consequence. If you go to that outing and meet 3 new people, they're all going to associate you with that outing, and then they might want to bring you someplace else. And that's another piece of your time gone where you meet more people. Now, not to confuse this with networking, where there's a high level of intentionality, but unless you're going there with a specific intent to get something, avoid others, because you can very easily get pulled into the worlds that they live and operate in. And unless it's the world that you want to be in, it's best that you keep some distance from it. Bad advice can cost you months, even years of time. The opinion of an uneducated person on something important, such as strategy, can make or break the whole entire execution. And if the execution's broken, you won't get what you want. And so it is so important that when you're asking for advice or strategies, that you only get it from people that are worth taking it from. Now, you can ask other people for their input and their suggestion and their perspective. Take it with a grain of salt. You have to find your own truth for how the world works and operates. You have to learn a bunch of things, formulate your own understanding of how you believe it works. An example for this is when I learned Facebook ads. At first, I found it very confusing and overwhelming, but once I got a basic foundation, I created a Google Sheet where I tracked every single ad that I ran, the day that I launched it, and next to it in a new tab, I had my observations. And so I would hypothesize what I think would happen, and then I would do it. And then after the fact, review my hypothesis and view what happened and figure out the truth. Do that enough times and you eventually get a very good foundation of how something works. And once you have a couple ideas that you believe to be true in your own opinion that you found and formulated for yourself, then go educating yourself by other people who are more experienced and see if your truths align with theirs and see where you're wrong, see where you're right. That is one of the quickest and best ways that I've found to learn. And if I didn't understand that, and if I had known that sooner, I would have learned so much more stuff or moved a lot faster through where I'm at. Bad advice can cost you months, even years of time. And it doesn't matter how hard you work because you're moving in the wrong direction. So that's it. Those are the things to be mindful of if you want to get what you want, if you want to succeed. I've not figured it all out, but those are the ideas that have brought me this far. And I give them to you and see what you can make of them. So what do you think? Do you agree with these ideas? Well, comment your thoughts down below if any of these made sense or resonated with you. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel where I can explain more about sales consulting. So if you want deeper insights and behind the scenes strategies that I don't share on YouTube, join my free newsletter. I send out tips on sales, business growth, and mindset. So check the first link in the description to sign up. And if you want personal guidance on scaling your business from me directly, click the link in the bio below and set up a time where we can meet and talk about how we can help you scale. See you in the next one.